Well, welcome to today's show. It is 9/2/2022. I am Dale Delbridge, Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. This is your status chat. And long at last, we have SEC football tomorrow. Roll Tide. Now we got that out of the way, let's get to the middle segment. If you like this content, please go to calldeltosell.com, find the tab that says on YouTube, click it, and it'll open up a page of QR codes. There you can use a smartphone to scan and get to the YouTube page, or you can just mouse over and click it on a PC. There you'll be able to subscribe to this little button over here and click the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you when each Friday's blog has been uploaded. Thank you. Well, welcome to the middle segment. Now, normally if I bring you something from a commercial site, some news site or whatever, I like to give you full credit by giving you the link to that article, whatever we read, in the description of Status Chat over on the YouTube page where the Status Chat lives. Now, today we're really not going to look at any articles. We're just going to use a search engine, so I think we'll forego that. But I would like to revisit an earlier prediction, or perhaps it was more of a what if, when I posted how high could interest rates be by December. And a lot of people looked at that. We didn't get any comments on it, but we looked at it. So let's return back to that and see if anything has changed since that post. Let's go to the center screen. Well, what did we say? We said the Fed target rate plus 3 percentage points is usually the prime rate. Well, let's see what it is today. And I just Googled. You see the Google current Fed target rate, and it says 2.25, 2.5. Let's take the higher number, 2.5, and 2.5 plus 3 should be 5.5. And according to this site, which was just what is today's prime rate, it came up with, looky there, 5.5. So we're still holding true our rule of thumb. Now, we have 2 more scheduled meetings of the Fed where the committee is going to meet. Now, as of today, the Fed has not done 2 things. It has not gone above 3/4 points and has not added any additional steps in there than what they announced they were thinking about doing from the begin with. Now, why does raising the interest rate cut inflation? It's very simple, because it usually cuts jobs, and that's the goal, is to cut jobs so that it cuts the wage growth so that we're not getting as much money. It's quite ironic, don't you think, that we have to get unemployment to get a hold of inflation? But what happens is people are spending all they have, and as things come flying off the supply chain because people are spending the money, the only way to get supply to catch back up is to cut demand. Does that make sense? When demand is high, so are prices. When supply is high, we have low prices. So what they're doing is they're trying to choke off the economy sufficiently far enough that our supply chain catches up, because apparently it's at full capacity and it can't make anymore. So how do you get your supply to match your demand a little bit better? Well, you cut back on the demand by raising the cost of doing business, and that's what they're doing. Or in the case of labor rates, cutting labor rate. And people are not likely to do that if we're still making gains in income. If we're still seeing about 3.3% unemployment, it's not coming down. So Mr. Fed Chair has already indicated that he's going to go hard and aggressive. He's a little bit, I think, like Fauci. I think he likes to speak and have people pay attention to what he says, to hang on every word. But the reality is he hasn't broken from what he said he was going to do in the first place, which is we have these meetings, and so far he's gotten it up to 0.75 points and no more each time. So I don't see why we could potentially have an extra meeting there in the middle month. We have a meeting this month and a meeting in December. And let's just assume that we're going to get 2 more 3/4 point hikes. Let's see how our prediction from earlier this year makes it. Now, this site is actually a commercial site, but it's Mortgage News Daily. If you follow me, you see I use it quite often, because in this case, they do daily surveys. Okay, MBA, Mortgage Bankers, and Freddie Mac, and I assume if we had the numbers, Fannie Mae would also do weekly surveys. So when we look at the weeklies, they're all doing what? They're climbing up a little bit at a time. 513, 55, 65, 545, 65, 80. On the week, they're going up, but on a daily basis, they'll jump around, because that's just what markets do. It's like stock pick. They jump around on the markets. Well, 73, 95, 95, 99. Yesterday was a huge jump at a full quarter point to 6.23, and today it came back down. So let's bring our calculator up and see if we're holding true if we have what we have. Now, we already established that 2.5 and 3 equals 5.5. So let's figure out what our margin is that we're just kind of getting. It varies customer to customer, and rate to rate, and provider to provider, that sort of thing, and ratios, whatnot. But let's just do the 6.02. You might do this in your head, minus the 5.5 to get today's margin, and that comes out to 52 basis points. Well, let's go ahead and clear that off. So let's take that 5.5 and let's add 1.5 points, which would be those two 75s, those two 3/4 points. So let's add the 1.5 points. That gets us to 7. Now, if you remember the prediction from earlier this year, it could go as high as 8, right? Well, based upon today's 6.02 right there, let's add 0.5 to 52 basis points, and we come up with 7.5, a little above 7.5. So we may very well hit that 8 point. We're certainly in that ballpark, and we haven't really come off schedule yet. Now, Tennessee's unemployment numbers, as I checked a while ago, about 3.3. We're not seeing the jobless numbers come up yet. We're starting to see some layoffs and some reduced profitabilities. Target's down, a lot of places down. Walmart is down. We've talked about that. So eventually, and it sounds odd to say it, but eventually we're going to have to see some unemployment before I think Mr. Chairman quits raising the rates. So that's it for the middle segment. It's not the end of the world. We get a pretty good idea how quickly this is going to come, and you know what you need to do. You need to call Dell to sell, call Dell to buy. We need to get that house on the market. We need to get some people working on taking a look at it. It's taking a little bit longer to clear inventory from the days on market. So we need to get it going before your potential buyer gets caught in another interest rise. And if you're a buyer, we need to get you looking at some houses before the interest rises, because you remember the 110 rule. For every 1 percentage point, you lose 10% of your buying power. So let's get back to the show and wrap this up. Hello, I'm Dell Delbridge of Benchmark Realty, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. If you are currently unrepresented and would like to know how to compare up to 3 properties side by side and room by room, then go over to my new YouTube channel, Call Dell to Sell. That's one L in Dell, no spaces. Watch the demo on Real Scout, and then call me and we'll set up your exclusive ad-free account today. Now that we got that done, what do you say we look at these numbers, see if there's been any shocking change going on. A week ago, 8/26/22, we had 16,705 opportunities in the Real Scout system. That was an increase over the previous period. We had 4198 in the under contract still showing. That also was an increase over the previous period. But the integer ratio between those two remained steady at 25%. Now this week, 9/2/22, we have 16,669 in the opportunities in the Real Scout system. That's down over the previous period. That's a reversal. And we had 4,087 in the under contract still showing. That's also a slight reversal. And guess what? The ratio between them remained unchanged at 25%. So I hope the middle segment was useful to you. It's just kind of a rule of thumb, a guesstimation, an approximation, but we've revisited how high could rates possibly be. Now, if we go up another 1.5%, that's going to cut down on your buying power. So if you're looking to buy, I suggest we get together and get serious about it before we get the December's jump. We may miss this month's, but by the time we find something, but we certainly avoid some of that increase if the increase does in fact materialize. Also, if you're a seller, you're getting an idea now from talking to friends and other people that have recently moved property that things are beginning to slow down a little bit. Not because people don't love and want what you have to sell, but because their buying power is being eroded. And you need somebody who can help get the two sides together, because you can have 100% of nothing or a percentage of the gains that we've seen come in. We can see if we can't lock as many of those gains in as humanly possible, but we got to make a deal to do that. So you know what you got to do. Give me a call, look me up, go to the website, calldale2sell.com. I'm everywhere. I'm like a bad rash. We appreciate you. And one last time, if you missed it earlier, roll tide.